A group of Norwegian scientists and laypersons are about to present a major report on licensing of research data in Norway. Magnus Aronsen, you have chaired this committee, and what are your main recommendations?
Thank you, Ole Petter. So our committee has previously presented a report on what we consider as the main legal and practical challenges to overcome or to be able to share more research data in Norway. And in this final report, we present an overview of the legal rights to research data in Norway, as well as recommendation on how to promote data sharing from Norwegian research institution, including legal aspects and, importantly, licensing of research data. So from this perspective, I would like to share 4 of many of our recommendations, which I believe is kind of the main summary of perhaps. And the first recommendation is that we should use data licenses or licenses with as few as possible restrictions. So that's the first recommendation. The second one is that the Norwegian institutions, research institutions, they need to clarify how data sharing should happen in their context, both how to organize the legal aspects of data sharing as well as the practical work on how to do data sharing. So strategy work at the institution is perhaps the second recommendation. The third one is that we need to build competence within the entire research sector, from the new master student to the experienced professor, as well as the libraries and many other parts of the research system. We need more competence on legal aspects, practical aspects, and technical aspects, including how to make data fair. So competence building in the times to come, that is crucial to achieve more data sharing. And the fourth and final recommendation is that we need incentives in the research sector to be able to share more data. So how to organize incentives, both at a personal level for researchers as well as the institutions, to promote data sharing. That's an important debate that we need to take to be able to share more data.
Ingrid Hegeland, as both a scientist and a librarian, you may understand the need for an effective exchange of data better than most. What are the main problems we have to set straight in Norway to ensure more sharing of data?
Thank you, Ole Petter. So Magnus already touched upon some of these issues and concerns and how we recommend that we start working on them. So we quickly realized when we were working in this committee that sharing of research data is more than just legalities. It's how you do things in practice. And I think some important things we have to have in place to make this work in Norway is infrastructure. And with infrastructure, I mean both the technical, practical infrastructure, like the archives and repositories, but also the organizational infrastructure, the people that can help you do this in practice, the right competency, and so on. And to actually get this to work in practice, we have to have a culture change in research and in science. So what do we consider as important output? And starting early in the process, making data ready to share, thinking about already early in the process, how do we make this useful for others? But we are already working on this, and we already have very good examples of best practice, both in Norway and internationally. So we have something to build upon to make this something we actually do in practice in everyday research and science.
And Stein Tronstad, you have international research experience and have worked on making data fair, as it's called. Why are licenses important in international exchange of scientific data?
Thanks, Ole Petter. First of all, licensing is in itself a requirement of the FAIR principles. It's part of the R for reusability and serves to ensure that data are not just technically interoperable, but also legally interoperable. Licenses clarify the legal obligations of users, and in some jurisdictions, that's particularly important because the absence of licensing will be interpreted as all rights reserves, hence rendering the data unusable or actually prohibited for use. It's also important to have machine-readable licenses in a world where more and more is about machine readability and automated data searches. So what we recommend is that is the use of licenses that are as permissive as possible, and even public domain statements, because what most scientists are after, the acknowledgement and citations, that's already a part of ethical and responsible scientific practice, and restrictions on data reuse will only serve to complicate their reuse and introduce ambiguity about the legal rights involved. And when combining data from multiple sources, that can lead to some really unwieldy data management. We also say that use of permissive licenses or public domain statements will serve well to enhance the scientific productivity of the data sets. So in short, we regard licensing as an indispensable tool for international data publishing and data sharing.
Thank you. My role in this committee have been representing the press and the public. And Norway has quite a tradition for being a country that in general appreciates transparency. But Magnus, why is it so important to share as much data as possible? And why shouldn't the scientist be allowed to do whatever he or she wants with it?
No, that's an important question. And well, it's a public goal to increase the sharing of research data, both to accelerate the research process itself, but also to be able, as a society, to take more advantage of the research results that the society generates, both in industry and in the public sector and in society as general. And one way of looking at this is that it costs a lot of resources to generate research results, both data and publications. And we believe that to share the data behind the research project, not only the publications, it will accelerate the research process by allowing other researchers to take part of those data and also to meta-analyze large amounts of research data, and not only the ones that you have generated yourself in your setting as a researcher. In addition, publication of research data might increase trust in the research process from the society as a general. We live in times where we struggle with reproducibility of research results, many research results, and the scientific system as general is every now and then questioned in the parts of the society. So we believe that openly sharing data, well, that is a mechanism to increase both the robustness of the data that is generated, as well as increasing the public faith in the research process. And on the other side, of course, how to do this in a constructive way, that might be very different in different research disciplines, such as the sciences versus the humanities, for example. So how to proceed on having, what should I say, good systems to promote these goals? Well, that has to be discussed in each discipline, and it has to be evolved over the years to come, simply. So that's an important debate in itself.
Publishing is rewarded in the Norwegian research finance system. But Ingrid, how can we make sure that scientists who are good at sharing data also can see some benefits for their own academic work?
This is an important question. I don't think we have one easy quick fix. I think we have to do this in a lot of ways. I just want to highlight a couple of players that I think play a very important role. So the research funders, when they fund research projects, they should consider having requirements and also rewarding those that actually make sure they share outputs like research data and other results. In addition, the institutions that hire researchers and scientists, they should also consider what types of output and activities do we want our researchers to be active in. For example, data sharing and data publishing, and of course, open science in general. So I think these are a couple of the important players that can help move us towards the right direction and ensure good practice and data sharing.
And finally, Magnus, now the report will be delivered, and what needs to happen next?
No, so we hope that our final report can be a document that can be used both by institutions, the government, and the funders, and the research system itself as a basis for further work in promoting data sharing, and we especially hope that our legal reviews can be valuable for all parts of the system. We believe that lack of knowledge, simply of what legal rights there are to research data, that can be one obstacle for achieving more data sharing. In addition to that, we believe that there are several practical issues regarding research data. So we hope also that the discussions that we have been having in the committee, as well as the public discussions, we have received a lot of inputs from the Norwegian sector on our report. So we hope that the final report can kind of reflect those discussions and also the practical aspects of data sharing. And then as a final thing, we also are entering a stage of the history perhaps where we will be heavily influenced by data sharing of big data in combination with artificial intelligence. It's more or less impossible to predict how the world will look in 10 years. So we believe that, or hope that our report can be an input on how to organize the Norwegian research system for now. And then we also believe that this is something that has to be discussed continuously in the times to come. And we hope that this report can be a kind of input for what we know for now, and that we also kind of lay the ground for more systematic discussions on this in the years to come, because we will learn a lot on how sharing of research data will influence both the research sector in itself and the society as a whole. So that will be a very exciting process.
Thank you, Magnus Aronsen, Associate Professor of University of Oslo, Ingrid Heggeland, Senior Research Librarian, NTNU University Library, Sten Tronstad, Section Head of Norwegian Polar Institute. My name is Ole Petter Pedersen. I'm the editor of Tech Weekly. Thank you.